All right. How you doing?
I'm good. It's a
Good.
little odd out here.
Loud out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we decided to do this episode based on our experience with good old Hurricane Helena.
Helene.
Helene.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
We're
her
not
name.
going to make her name sound pretty.
Good old Hurricane Helene
Yes.
and the damage and destruction she did.
Yes.
So behind us is what used to be a pecan tree in our yard, and it used to stand up pretty high.
Yep.
And as you can see, it's there no more.
Yeah.
And we lost a vehicle due to that was parked actually in this spot right here,
Where we stand.
and
Yep.
it was a pretty scary event.
The tree it was a huge tree and it took up all of the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So it went on one one car and blocked the other ones in.
Yep.
Um, it was, but
Yep.
if it wasn't for the pivot that it made, it would
Yeah.
have been
It
in
would've
the
been
house.
In
so
the house. Yeah.
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 So we're thankful for that. We just had some damage to our back porch awning and some shingles.
Shingles up front. Yeah.
But other than the vehicle, that was just our major
Yep.
damage.
Yep.
There was a tree in the front that went down and blocked off the driveway, so we had to get that out and start driving through the front yard once we got the cars free.
Yep.
Because there were still power lines. The tree in the front took out our neighbors across the street and
Yep.
to our right took their
out.
power lines down. So we had the down lines. They're still in the driveway.
Mm-hmm. And for those there have been people who have commented and said, why didn't you guys area prepare for this?
Right.
We're pretty inland. I mean,
We are about 150 miles away
Yeah.
from the nearest coastline. So the idea of a hurricane,
actually in this area
Right.
is not it hadn't been done before. We haven't heard of. I mean, we've had hurricanes
we've had
from the Atlantic side, the Gulf side.
the tropical storms.
Yeah.
Once they get
They reduce.
to this area, it's no longer a hurricane; it's tropical storm. So we would
might
get rains and
wind,
things like that. Right.
rain, stuff like
But
that.
this was nothing like we've ever experienced,
yeah.
and that's what we hear throughout our community. We are in South Carolina on the Georgia border. We are both from we're both from Georgia, and so our community, it crosses state lines.
Yes.
And that's one thing we've heard over and over again is people saying they've never experienced anything like this in this area. And so the idea of preparing for it wouldn't have been something that we would have known how to do because we've not experienced anything like that.
Exactly, yeah.
And now the aftermath of it, it's like each stage of it is, I don't know, you have to process it differently. If you've never been in a situation like the tree line is gone in most areas.
Horizons have changed.
Right. We look at different areas and they just don't even look the same. And then the downed trees, in 2 days, they went from being green because they were trees,
browning.
and then they were brown. So you drive around and you see all these piles and piles of trees, and it's something.
Yeah,
and I hope never to experience it again.
Yeah, and you can and we'll add pictures. You can see like debris, trees that's piled up, homes that were destroyed, some roofs that were destroyed. Thank God our roof was, pretty sound. We had a couple shingles that moved.
As we were out and about today, there was a news report on my phone that said the death toll is now at 31.
Yeah.
And so for this area, we still are, there are still people who are affected in terms of their lives.
And there's still people without power. Like,
right. There's still people without power, without water. We have FEMA is here. We had these mobile, like the major insurance companies had these mobile offices set up for people. It's just nothing we've ever experienced.
Yeah, and nothing at all.
We know that after our area, Helene moved north to Asheville and North Carolina and Tennessee,
and those areas are completely destroyed.
Right.
Cities are completely. There's no gaining power. There's no nothing. It's those people are going to have to rebuild their lives totally.
It's just been a very surreal thing to experience. So, if you've ever been in any type of natural disaster, you'll be able to relate to this.
Right.
You don't know. My son was angry because the car that was under the tree was his. And so he, you have the anger, but where do you direct it? Because it's literally nature. So there's not much you can do. You can't fight Mother Nature. Obviously, she showed us.
No, she wins
every time. So.
And then it's like when you have something happen, it's like sometimes it's like, well, if it's a fire on this side of town, I can go on this side of town. Smoke is clear. You can't escape it because it's like wherever we go, there are trees on the side of the road. There are houses that are destroyed. There are cars. I think for the most part, some of the cars have been moved. They have been destroyed. But we've seen some with trees just
because
laying around on top of the car.
To some of the neighborhoods. They had to clear some of the neighborhoods. So, and it's like one thing that was different for me, because a lot of people were saying it's kind of like during the pandemic. But for me, it was so odd to see those of you who don't live in the area moving about life in a normal way. Because during the pandemic, everybody was affected. Everything stopped.
Exactly.
You still had your, your creature comforts. You had internet. You had power. So, in fact, and I say this frequently, my favorite thing about the pandemic was the fact that I could go online and order yarn and drive to pick it up. They didn't want me to come in the stores. But this was different because our little town was affected, our area was affected, and people outside of this were just going about life, and here we are. We had people who didn't have basic needs. So it's just a surreal experience that I don't want to experience anymore.
No, I don't want to experience that
Any
anymore.
desire I had to live near the beach, that was extinguished.
Living near water.
Right.
And we just had Milton that just passed through Central Florida.
Right.
And
that was
damage there. They're still walking around in water.
Right.
I've seen videos, so I mean, it's just it was an experience, you guys, and we're going to talk later. We're going to talk about from the time we got up that morning until now, and just share some of our video footage and pictures that we have taken. We've ridden around several different areas in our city, and just took some pictures and just looking at the destruction. So it's surreal, and it's also eye-opening.
And we do want to thank those of you who reached out to check on us.
Yes, definitely.
And who sent your well wishes and prayers. We appreciated that. We had some interviews we had to reschedule, so we appreciate working with us on that.
Yes.
But we're excited to be able to get back into a schedule so that we can keep connecting with you all. And sharing our thoughts and experiences.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
All right. We wanted to talk about the experience of Hurricane Helene. We did a video earlier, just kind of brushing over some of the things that happened. But I wanted to go into a little bit of detail about the morning the events occurred. So Helene hit. Well, I got to back up. The day before, which is the 26th, right?
It's a Thursday.
It was just a cold, rainy day. I'll never forget because I had a training at work, and so I mean it just rained the entire day. The entire day it was just pouring down, and even when we got out of there, I had full intentions. I was like, well, because I had to actually work the next day, Friday morning. So I had full intentions on stopping and getting some gas. I was at like a half a tank, maybe a little under a half a tank. And, got on the phone. Somebody called me and just started chit-chatting, passed every gas station. Made it home. I was like, well, I ain't going to worry about it. I'll just get some gas in the morning. That was my thought. Knew a hurricane was on the way. Usually they reduce to tropical storms by the time they get to us. So didn't think nothing of it. Who was your thoughts that day before?
I work with kids. I work at a high school, and I was concerned with the kids driving home with all the rain.
Yeah.
And I could tell as the day went on and it was still raining that, actually, let me back up. That morning, we actually had, with the not siren, but they came on and told us to go out into the hall for a tornado drill.
Yeah.
And so when we got out there, the kids were asking if it was scheduled drill, and I said, no, this is real. And so that's the first time ever that I've experienced having to be in a situation where you have to do whatever, we do the drills and practice.
Right.
That's the first real time. Even as a student, I don't ever recall having to do that. And so there was a tornado that had touched down it was a good distance from the school itself, but it was close enough that it required us to get the kids in a safe space. And so that was a little bit, that was a little bit upsetting, but that happened first thing that morning. And so as the day progressed, it continued to rain, and as the day went on, you could tell, they're teenagers, so they're not, a lot of them aren't going to just come out and say they're scared, but you could tell there was anxiety with some of them that drive, and they were going to have to drive in that rain. And then as we were leaving, one of my coworkers was in front of me. We always walk out together, so we walked out, and she got in her vehicle. I pulled out behind her, and the way that we normally leave from the school, she stopped, and I saw her start to turn in the opposite direction. And I looked over, and there was a car stuck because there was so much rain. It was stuck in the water.
Like a flash flood type deal.
And so at that point, we were excited because probably an hour before the end of the day, they said that school would be canceled for Friday. And the district that I'm in normally doesn't close, but the state actually, the state emergency administration said that they, recommend school districts close, what have you. So we were just excited to have a day off the next day because we're thinking rain and winds.
Rain, flash flood.
Right, because those are things that we normally get.
Yeah.
And so I left work excited to have a 3-day weekend, an unexpected 3-day weekend, and didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. And so, we had us a regular night. I remember looking at the news, It's like, well, I got to drive into the rain in the morning. Probably be a little windy, but that'll be it. That's every hurricane that has hit the East Coast, the Gulf Coast that have come our way. Typically, we get high winds, and I'll say high winds, 30, 40 miles an hour. That's pretty much it, some rain, flash flooding, whatever.
Maybe a small tornado.
Yeah, a couple of tornadoes here and there. But, so, I go to bed. And when I woke up the next morning, the first thing I noticed that it was a little warm. And I noticed that the ceiling fan was off. And my alarm clock, I just noticed it felt a little warm. Ceiling fan wasn't on, so I was like, okay, well, so we might have lost power. Because, you got that little blue light by your bed, and I use that as kind of a guide for power, so to speak. And I didn't see that on, so I said, oh, we lost power. So I get up, and I hear the rain, and I hear wind, but it's not really registering to me, thinking 30, 40 mile an hour wind, it is what it is. So I got a flashlight. I'm in the bathroom getting dressed, brushing my teeth, got on my work uniform, and I think I immediately woke up. Reagan came out, and she had spoken to me. She was like, the power went out at about 3:30. I said, okay, so that makes sense. And so, we just talked. She asked me would Roxy be all right. I said, oh, yeah, she'll be fine. And I think by that time you had gotten up, and I had hit the remote start on my truck. And I looked out there, I saw the rain falling, it's windy, but, hey, say
it was horrible.
Well, it was horrible, but
because
it still
I was telling you don't need to drive in there.
It still wasn't like the register. Like, I'm not registering that this is like high winds. Like, I'm not registering a hurricane is over us. That just, that's not registering to me. It didn't register me until I stepped out the door and I looked towards the cottage and saw the trees behind the cottage kind of doing the lean back. And I was like, okay, well, and my heart just started pounding. I'm like, I can't drive in this. So I cut the truck off and I think we went back, and then by that time, Roxy showed up. And mind y'all, by this time, it's, the wind is blowing, but the tree is still intact, as far as I can remember.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine. It was just, was windy. It was raining. It was, I don't know if it was thunder. There was a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's a lot of noise.
And looking back on it now, we handled that horribly.
Yeah.
But because we're not used to that type of thing, so we came in, and right where we're sitting now.
Well, we got the dog.
Right, we got the dog. We came in.
And called her in because she has the electric fence and she was scared. So I had to actually put the jacket on to go get her, bring her past the fence area, and then bring her in. And then that's when we sat down right here. And I always remember the little curtain things we have on the porch. It's blowing, like, anytime we have wind, and them things are blowing like crazy.
Well, the living room is so small, but you said, we're not going to sit by the windows.
Yeah.
So we sat here, and I'm looking back, I'm like, the room is so small.
Yeah. I mean,
if the windows had blown out, we still would have been cut.
Yeah.
It never occurred to go to a space with no glass because, like I said, we're just not used to it.
That never occurred. And
so as we're sitting here, none of that occurred to us. I didn't think to get the kids, and go somewhere. We have a basement, which
we called Tyson. kept calling him.
Yeah, but he
He
slept
was
through it
asleep.
all.
He slept through all that, and then.
So you sat here and you're on your phone and you're looking at stuff. After you would call work to let them know.
Yeah.
And I would sit still for a little while, then I'd have to get up and walk. And I walked and I told him, I said, I've got to go get him. I've got to go check on the boy. And so I looked out the window and I heard a noise, and I actually saw the tree on the car well before I said anything.
Yeah.
We were sitting here when we heard it.
Yeah, we heard it.
But I went in my pacing, I looked out the window in the green room, and that's when I saw that the tree was on the car. So I came and I sat back down, and we're watching the radar weather map.
Yeah.
And so I said, I've got to go get him. And that's when we went and looked out the back door and could no longer see anything out back, because
before that happened, I could see the cars, I could see my truck, I could see everything.
Right, the backyard was clear.
And after that, it was just like total darkness.
And I could see like the outline, and I'm like, is that the tree?
Yeah.
And even though I had seen the bottom of it on the car, it didn't register to me how big the tree was, and that it would go across the entire yard like that. And so we went out, and Reagan came out, and we were looking, and it was just so eerie looking. At this point, it wasn't really raining anymore. It was just kind of misting, but it was still dark enough that there were shadows.
Yeah.
And the tree is across the yard, and we got him up. He slept through all of that.
I remember looking out of the front window, because I think they had light flashes. I don't know if it was the transformers blowing or what, but I remember looking out there and seeing the horizon in the front yard. I'm like, well, one of them trees is down. In the front. Of course, we couldn't see which way it fell. And that's a tree that happened to land across the driveway into the neighbor's yard. But that was scary. It was really scary experience. A lot of heart dropping, a lot of heart pounding.
And afterwards,
trying to remain calm, because I'm a man. I'm trying to remain calm in front of y'all, like I got it together, but inside the heart was going 50 miles an hour, buddy. Look here.
When all of it was done, we walked around the neighborhood, and we were
when we finally got some light,
we were blocked in.
We was able to see what the damage was in our area.
We were blocked, like each street, we were blocked in.
Yeah.
And due to trees being down, so all around us, we wouldn't have been able to necessarily get out anyway.
Yeah.
And
I think I ended up probably around lunchtime. I did trim enough limbs from that tree from the front so I could get my truck out. My truck was free.
Your truck was free,
and
you pulled it into the front yard. You trimmed some of the back limbs.
No, I'm saying initially, because that tree was covered. Like I couldn't even get out of, to even go across the driveway at first, and then I had to cut some of the limbs out the front tree.
Oh, I thought that stayed there until. Because
the
we started coming across. But we started driving across the front yard once you were able to get those cars out.
But I had to get those. It was 2 or 3 limbs that I had to cut from that tree in the front in order to get that access, so I could get the truck out. Because at that time, the truck was the only thing we had free. And we decided at some point in time to try to get some gas. And that was an experience. Now, mind you, during this time, I mean, we're on Facebook. We have a local connect group. People are, there's gas over here. This store is open. This store is open. People trying to get resources because now, mind you, the entire area is without power.
Right, and that was something that with the gas, it wasn't that there wasn't gas, it was there wasn't power.
They couldn't power the pumps.
For the pumps.
Yeah.
Same thing with a lot of the stores.
Yeah.
You couldn't make purchases.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then some places were cash only for a while.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of places were cash only.
The, just the destruction of it all.
Yeah.
And there is a gentleman here locally in our area, and he does aerial photos, and he started posting photos of different areas. And it was just it's still very surreal to see. So now, fast forward 2 months, where the debris in a lot of places has been, the trees have been cut smaller and everything's on the edge of the road, and so you had these huge piles of dead trees.
Yeah, dead trees.
Everywhere. And I was thinking about it the other day. It's like I'm getting used to seeing that because that's, everywhere you go.
Ours is at the very front of the driveway, and then we have some on the side, and it's like you just getting used to you're going down streets and there's still like piles of trees, and it's like you're zigzagging trying to get to the store or whatever. It's like we're just living with it, and there are areas where they are picking up some of the trees, and you can see like piles of trees just piled up. But you look around in some of these roads, and it's like doesn't look like anything is happening.
Which I would imagine just the sheer volume of stuff having to be picked up. So we, this is something that I don't ever want to experience again.
No. Never want to.
But we didn't anticipate it because of how far inland we are. And we were out of school for maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think
about 2 weeks.
I ended up having to go back to work that Sunday, and it was by the time Sunday came, I was like, well, ain't much I could do, and it was the mill, they had shut the mill down, but we were stuck Friday and Saturday. We were just stuck, and by the time Saturday came, even though I had vehicles free, I was still like,
there wasn't anything.
I didn't feel comfortable with my family.
By the time we returned to school, the area where my school was hit pretty hard because of the amount of trees.
A lot of trees in the area.
And so we had a day where we went back, the teachers went back, and then 2 days. So we went back like on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
The kids came back that Wednesday and Thursday, and they already had a scheduled break for that Friday and Monday. And so those 2 days, the Wednesday and Thursday for them, they didn't count as absences just in case they still, didn't have access. And even after that, when we came back that next Tuesday, there were still so many kids who were out because they still didn't have
and that was
power
thing.
And things
power
like that.
In the area. It was like
there's actually still
people still
internet out in some areas. There were, I think last week, some people were just getting power back, and then thinking about some of the repairs would be done or power would come back on, and then when they go to do the internet, it would knock something else out. We just, last week had rain for the first time.
Yep.
I was very nervous about that. And so some people, because their repairs have not been done, some people experienced leakage and things like that.
I actually had a young lady reach out to me, and she was like, "Do you know any roofing repair company?" She said, "I got a leak in my roof." And now she lives in a neighborhood that, it's like a newer neighborhood. A lot of newer neighborhoods where we live, they don't have a lot of trees. And so, but she had some roof damage she didn't realize at the time. And she was telling me that, she had a leak in her roof. But it was like, well, but they had been right at a month with no rain since the hurricane. Like literally no rain.
Yep.
And it was just dry that entire time. So, she may have, thought she was fine. You know what I'm saying, during that time. But, it was surreal.
Yep.
There were stores that were throwing away food. A lot of your refrigerated items, because, there was no sign of power for a while, and I think some businesses went I would say 2 to 3 days to an excess of a week without power, depending on the type of business it was. And then, of course, 2 or 3 days go by, they had to toss all of their refrigerated food, so you were just able to get dry goods. I mean, it just literally was, dry goods. And we were fortunate that we had gas, stoves, so we were able to cook, at least whatever the cool stuff that we had up until that time that we got power back.
There was one Publix location that it was like they didn't skip a beat.
Yeah.
And so we went there, and they were fully stocked with everything.
And some places did have generators, backup generators and things like that.
So it's definitely an experience that I don't want to have ever again.
Don't want to experience that, and to just see the life back to some degree of normalcy. But at the same time, you can still ride down the street and see blue tarps on top of houses. One of my good friends, I just had to do some work to his house for one of his cars the other day, and he was having his entire roof replaced. So you don't realize, that's a whole nother side of the city, and it's like we said, you can't escape it. Wherever you go, there are trees piled up by the road.
There are still trees leaning into buildings at this point.
Yeah.
I guess if they're leaning in but didn't, cause any damage, it's let that stay and get to the stuff that's, where there's damage.
And my brother was telling me the other day when I talked to him that the tree was still on the house.
Oh, wow.
The sunroom back in the back. It was still on top of it. And they were just supposed to meet with somebody to get that taken care of. So, I mean, this was something else. It's something else.
If you have never experienced anything like this, I mean, there's no way to even describe it.
Yeah.
And then the devastation in Asheville and further up with the flooding. It's just something.
Yeah.
But there again, like I said before, who are you going to be upset with? It's Mother Nature.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Mother Nature is going to do what she wants to do. So here we are.
Yep. And so now everybody's, I guess, back to a little normalcy, back to their asshole selves. Cutting you off in front of traffic.
A left turn.
Cutting you off in traffic. What I mean, life has moved on, but we just want to, share our experience, like the entire experience, and just, for those who don't live in this area, blessed that you didn't experience it. And I know there's areas who have experienced probably more than we have, but this was a first for us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I definitely understand when I see, towns where a tornado hit and houses are destroyed, and I understand that now more so. But yep.
All
right, y'all. Until next time. All right. Hurricane Helene took the tree down. This big tree right here. Got a parking pad covered. Still blowing hard. Couple cars covered. Look like no major damage. This looks like limb stuff here. What I'm hoping. Big pecan tree. Shed is fine, looks like it. Big tree. I guess the car, right? We'll find out at some point in time. Huh? Yeah. Mini Beirut. But the structure of the house is fine.